Hi, and welcome back to my YouTube channel. I'm Meg James, your Move to Spain coach, and this is episode Diez, 10. The topic today is a little funny. We're just gonna talk like friends and talk about the differences of Spain and the US. So, seems like a basic one, but I wanna talk and get feedback from people, especially my Instagram community. If you were an American and you were living in the US and you decided to move to Spain, what would you miss most? And if you were Spanish and you were deciding to move to the US, what would be the hardest thing that you would want not leave behind or that you would miss? And so come with me as I unpack your answers, I share my experiences, and we just have a simple heart-to-heart discussion about the differences of the US and Spain. On this short episode today, I just want to look at your responses in my Instagram community. If you're not part of that, I'm on Instagram over at Go and Do Good. We have great discussions about the differences, the cultural differences of being an American family living in Spain. But I want to hear from my American friends and people on Instagram to see what are things that they would not be able to leave behind. Now, I'm going to drop these responses on here. Again, this is a very informal just discussion. It's not going to be very tailored to a specific topic today. I just want to look at the differences so that if you're someone who's thinking about moving abroad to Spain from the US, you can see that other people have these concerns of leaving these things behind too. And so the first response is a job. I would need money and my job is not remote, right? So a lot of people, I will say that jobs in the US are more beneficial to have than Spain because Spanish salaries, generally speaking, are much lower than the US. And so it is kind of an American dream to be able to have a US salary in Spain. It's not always the case, and you can have a great job in Spain too, but that's definitely a factor for people that are thinking of moving to Spain as they want to be able to keep a US job here. Parents. People have a hard time leaving their family behind. We are blessed to have my parents visit 2 or even 3 times a year in Spain. I know that's not necessarily the option for all parents, but leaving family behind on both ends is a challenge for sure. Grandkids, a lot of people later in their life are wanting to maybe consider a move to Spain from the US, but can't or decide not to because of their extended family now, their grandkids. And so I could see how that would make it harder decision to make. More responses for family. People saying free water, good real Mexican food, that is real. More cultural diversity, automatic cars in the US, and American English. And this is not far off. We miss having good, authentic Mexican food. We ask for agua de grifo here in Spain, free tap water, but it's just not the same as the US with the ice cold ice cubes. So these are great responses. Someone else, free ice water in restaurants. That's what they would miss the most in the US. Second Amendment rights. There is a lot of differences in laws between the US and Spain. And so for someone, the Second Amendment, and many people would say that would be something that would be really hard to leave behind. Someone is joking with me, I'm sure, and said Donald Trump. I'm sure no one would miss the political atmosphere in the US, but the truth of the matter is that even with craziness happening in an election time in the US, Spain has its own political and government issues as well. And so if you're looking to move to Spain from the US just to avoid topics of government, you might be able to because of the language barrier, but there is definitely politic issues here in Spain as well. So let's see why other people in the US, just for fun today, would say that what would they miss? What would be a hard thing for them if they decided to move to Spain? So this is someone who's a Spaniard actually living in the Midwest. So they said they would miss how they have fall and the Christmas season, which is so true. Thrift stores, parking and driving is easier. We definitely, especially living in Madrid, find parking and driving to be very hard in Madrid and Spain. And then fall and Christmas are a big deal here in Spain, but not as big of a deal in the US. Like fall, you think of going out and pumpkin picking and apple picking and doing all these things, especially us that we live near the North Carolina mountains, and we would do that every fall. Here, it's just not as big of a thing. So I can totally see that. Someone said Chick-fil-A. We had our first Chick-fil-A experience in a while, and so I get that when we were back this summer. Chick-fil-A is a big deal if you've not visited the US or you've not spent time living there. It's the real deal, and people really love going to Chick-fil-A. The next is Chipotle. My friend Keeping Up with Kelsey, who lived in Germany and the Netherlands, she always says how she loves going into France for Chipotle. And so we don't have Chipotle here in Spain either, so I can see how if you love Chipotle, you might miss that compared to the US. Target is a big one. There is Hipercor here, which is kind of a version of Spain's equivalent of Target, but it's not the same. And so I don't love shopping at Target. I'm okay without it, but for a lot of Americans, it would be hard to leave behind a Target. Friends and family, this is a really good one. A king size bed. Beds are so much smaller in Europe. My husband and I are squashed into this big IKEA bed. And we had an amazingly comfortable bed in the US. So we talk about that a lot. But yeah, more people saying family. Let's continue to see the reasons that Americans would have a hard time moving to Spain. Community, air conditioning at night. So we have air conditioning in our flat here in Spain, but it's different. It comes from the floor. It is common to have air conditioning in some areas of Spain. It's less common, obviously, than the US. It's not unheard of, but it's different. It can sometimes be ventless because people in Spain think it's bad for you and makes it unhealthy if it comes from the ceiling down. And so yes, if you are in air conditioned, sleeping on low 60s at night, you might have a hard time living in Spain. Let's see if there's any others on this of reasons that Americans would have a hard time moving to Spain or what they wouldn't want to leave behind. Fried chicken and sweet tea. We're from Southern USA, so we get it. If you like good Southern cuisine, you're not gonna find a good mac and cheese and fried chicken here in Spain, so I get that. Paycheck. I mentioned a lot of people would have a hard time leaving a US salary for a Spanish salary. Costco. There's Costco here. We have multiple Costcos in Madrid even. So you don't have to give up your love of Costco, but another one for the air conditioning and Target. Peanut butter. This is a really good one because they do have peanut butter. I love the brand of peanut butter they have here in Supercore in Spain, but some people are very specific on their Jiffy or their certain kinds of peanut butter, and I could see how they would miss their American peanut butter behind. Kids club soccer team, I guess, their kids are already very connected in one in America. In Spain, we're on an excellent club team, and so football is Mecca here in Spain, so you don't have to give that up if you choose to move to Spain. A big enough house. This is a good one too. Spaces are much smaller in Spain. We have grown to love that, having lived in a very large house. I mentioned in a previous episode how we went from 3,600 square feet to now around 1,100, and we love being in a small space. But for people who prefer having a big house, America wins on that one as well. Let's just finish here the answers of why Americans would have a hard time moving to Spain. Keep going. This is a really good one, the homeschooling community. Something that I learned here from just friends that have navigated living in Spain from America is in the US, it is very common to homeschool your children, but in Spain, it's actually considered illegal in many comunidades here in Spain, and it's more frowned upon than it is in the US. It's not impossible to do, but there's a lot more hurdles to do so. And so I could see how a homeschooling community, leaving that behind in the US, could be difficult for people that live in America. Let's see if we have any other reasons of why people would have a really hard time leaving the US to move to Spain. Customer service. This is such a good one. I think at the end of the day, this is one of the hardest for my husband and I. We miss a good customer service experience like we'd get in the US, especially in banks and places of business. And so you're not going to get the same level of customer service in Spain like you are in America. So good one. The next one is Amazon packages. You don't have to give up your dream of Amazon packages. Mine is delivered on up the elevator. Here I'm having another package come from Amazon tonight here in Spain. So we love Amazon in Spain as well. Let's see. Is there any other reasons? Okay, someone, and I get this to the core, someone could not leave behind the language. It's very hard to learn Spanish as an adult. It's going to be one of my future episodes. And so I can understand how it'd be really hard to leave behind speaking English. So I get you. Non-toxic products for skincare and house is a really good one. I think Spain is more regulated on the products that they sell in stores. The EU has higher and bigger controls on the products that you eat. I'm not as familiar with the products on your skin and in your home. So that's a good one. And I want to research the difference on the two to be able to speak to that one. And being surrounded by trees all the time. Now, there are areas of Spain that are super rural, even near Madrid, in Colmenar Viejo or Tres Cantos. There's tons of little towns or bigger cities even that have a lot of trees. In Madrid, of course, we live closer to Centro, and we do miss that too. And so I could see if you live in a more rural area of the US, like we lived on a farm there, it's hard to come to a city in Spain. But that would be the same in the US if you chose to move to like New York City all of a sudden. So that I get. The last one is doctors, that you would miss doctors. And I understand that too, because the language barrier is really tough to talk with medical professionals here. My husband has had to go to the hospital. We've had to navigate booking and changing doctor appointments here, and it's much more challenging than it would have been in the US. So these are all really good responses. Wait, I gotta go back to that. But there's still excellent medical care in Spain. So if you're someone who's concerned to move to Spain because of the quality of the medical care, I don't think that's an issue at all. It's just a communication issue and the process issue, but the doctors here are really good too. And so now let's switch sides of the table here and let's look why people who live in Spain would have a hard time leaving Spain to move to the US. Of course, the responses are all about food. So people would have a hard time leaving behind jamón, croquetas. I understand that. We're already addicted. We love Spanish cuisine, all of us in this family. So I absolutely understand how that could be hard. Someone said it would be hard to leave behind Spain's healthcare system, affordable, healthier food, safety, walkable cities, work-life balance. And I understand a lot of that too. I definitely have a higher sense of safety and security here, especially in sending our kids to school, which I've shared before. Healthcare system really is good once you get through the language barrier, and there is healthier food. So I agree with a lot of those. People, of course, in Spain would have a hard time leaving their family here to go to the US, same as we would to come here. Jamón, always more jamón. So let's see some of the other reasons that people in Spain would have a harder time moving to the US. Sobremesa. So sobremesa is that expression where you just have a long meal, you enjoy conversation, you're not rushed, and I love that about Spain. So I can see why someone would have a hard time leaving Spain for a more fast-paced eating experience in the US. Meals in the US, even long ones, are definitely quicker, and I love that about Spain. So that's a really good answer. Another one about food, someone said tapas. It would be very hard to leave tapas behind for us too. Those quick, little affordable, not entrees, kind of like appetizer equivalent in the US that you get, even sometimes free if you get a drink or a Coke. And so, yeah, 100% love the tapas culture and just the small light bites instead of a big, thick, heavy meal, like a burger or something in the US. So I agree with that. Grandbabies, people here don't want to leave behind their children's children either. And so I can see how if you're later in life, that would be hard in Spain, the same as it is in the US. So more reasons of why people in Spain would have a hard time moving to the US, just the cultural differences and the reasons that they would prefer not to move. So community is really big in Spain too. And so they're already in a community. They wouldn't want to leave and form a new one. Okay, more reasons of why people in Spain would have a hard time moving to the US. Being able to walk everywhere. Now, I agree with this. I think in the cities in the US, I just never lived in one, but in Philly or New York City or Boston, you might be able to walk a lot more. In Spain specifically, communities really throughout Spain are built where you can be more walkable. And I love that you can walk to get your groceries, walk to the doctor versus having to get in the car. So I prefer having now in Spain less of a car culture. So I agree with that one. French bread, my girl Julia, it's such a good point. Like in the US, you just can't buy that baguette bread that's as good as it is in Europe. And so the bread, that would be hard to leave behind. Let's keep going. The quality of life. And this is one that on both sides, someone may argue, oh, my quality of life is better here, or mine is better here. I could see how someone would say the quality of life in Spain is better compared to the US. And so we are choosing to raise our boys in this environment because it's not a live to work, it's a work to live environment. And so my husband's less work stressed. We have more time for things we enjoy. We're in a smaller space, so it's less cleaning. And so I 100% agree with quality of life, at least for this season. So these are the reasons that Spanish people would have a hard time moving to the US. It would be hard to not get fresh fish so easily and just walking to get errands. And it is true, the seafood departments and grocery stores even are so different in the US and Spain. In the US, you get kind of the fillet of the salmon and you can pick it up as you go. In Spain, it's just the hunk of fish and it's fresh, just caught. And so the seafood culture in Spain is very fresh compared to the US, and I think that's a good one. Let's keep going. Universal health care and no guns policy. So it's not a secret that the gun policy is very different here in Spain. I really don't see anyone walking around with a gun unless it's a political member or a government professional that's outside of a police department here or a police officer. And some people in America would hate not being able to have their guns. In Spain, it's just a no gun culture. And so how is that a positive for us as an American family? Well, we don't worry about school shootings. How is it a negative if you are someone who is a hunter or you enjoy having a gun for safety, it's just really not an option for you in Spain. So if you are Spanish, this is their opinion of something they would not like about the US, that you can just own a gun. Universal healthcare, you pay for it in your benefits here in Spain, but they do have phenomenal, either free or low cost private healthcare. And so I can see how that would be a benefit to Spain. Someone else said a stress-free schedule and plans with little kids. And it is a more stress-free culture here in Spain, going back to kind of that quality of life. And so these are reasons that people that live in Spain would not want to or move to America. So daily walking routine, I swear that walking is such a big one for us too. Fue, so more food. It's a different form of, not a jamon, it's different. It's a different meat product, but people love their fue here. So let's keep going. Some people wouldn't want to leave behind their social security that they've worked for. That's probably on both ends of the spectrum, but that was someone's answer for why they wouldn't leave Spain. Weekend plans, like flying to my second city of Amsterdam. The travel from Spain, now I know there's great places in America to visit too, but is bar none. It's amazing. The prices are so affordable for a family of four to fly around Europe. And so at least I completely agree with that. It would be really hard to leave Spain for us because of the amazing travel opportunities that we have from Spain. So I love that. Someone said the Spanishness of everything, and it is a cultural thing. It has its own unique culture, where America is more of a melting pot and a blend of different cultures. Spanishness is just Spanishness throughout Spain. And so I love that answer. It's a good one. Again, someone mentioned the shooting atmosphere. And I think it's important to keep bringing up because that's a genuine big concern of Spanish people to move to America. They said, I'd miss my peace of mind. I could not imagine living in constant fear of a shooting. And so the truth of the matter is that is a real fear for people. This is a good answer. Spring and summer nights. Summer in Spain is awesome. Jamón, tapas, music festivals. So just a lot of the cool things about Spain. This is an interesting answer. Someone answered that they could not move from Spain to the US because Spain has a no mandatory tipping at restaurant rule, and the tax is already in prices. And so I love the no mandatory tipping too. We've definitely given Euro coins or tips to people who have exceeded in customer service, but I love that I don't have to give 20% every time I eat out. So I agree with that one a ton. Now, someone mentioned Amazon Prime here, which we do have in Spain, but they mentioned how much slower it is. So I do agree with that. In Madrid, it's pretty quick, but I could see how in Spain compared to the US, it could be a negative how long it takes Amazon Prime here compared to the US. And so last answers, let's see if there's anything else that I want to share on reasons that you would not want to move from Spain to the US. Weather. The weather is great. I agree, especially depending on where you are. Southern Spain has fantastic weather year round. I guess you could probably say the same though if you live in Florida or California or somewhere in the US, that you would say I wouldn't want to leave the weather behind. Now, if you live in like Galicia here in Spain or Minnesota in the US, you might be fine to leave in the winters. So that's very subjective to where you are. I love this answer, short distance trips. There are so many great towns and pueblos near Madrid specifically, or really any big Spanish city. And so travel in the car too is just excellent. I feel like in the US, you can be in the car all day and you still don't get where you need to go. Where in Spain, you can be in the car and it's very true that once you're there, within an hour or 15 minutes, you feel like you're in a whole new world in Spain. And so I really like the car travel here in Spain too for shorter distances. So those were the main reasons that people would not want to leave the US or Spain. And so I want to make sure that I share from our family's perspective that we're a proud American family, proud to be living in Spain. And there is not a perfect country. There is not this ideal place that you can move that wouldn't have issues that are political or safety wise or health wise or any of them. There's not a perfect country on earth. And so I implore your family to find what is best for you, and it might be different than what is best for me and my family, but I love hearing these things that you love about the US, that you love about Spain, that would be hard to leave. And I relate to all of them because there's things in the US we miss, there's things in Spain that we would miss if we left. And so really it's the journey of figuring that out for you and your family that has been the most fun. So what I would love to know in the comments is, let me know what other things, if you live in Spain, what would you miss the most about moving from Spain? If you live in the US, why could you never move to Spain? What do you love about living in the US? And as always, I'm here and available to be your Move to Spain coach. So there's a link right below. Schedule a time with me. We can talk more about what that could look like to move to Spain. And I look forward to the next episode. We're going to talk a little bit more about one of our hardest frustrations soon, which is learning to speak Spanish as an adult. Ciao.